What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. Now, it's been a minute. I took a bit of a hiatus because of some issues going on around my house. One of the issues actually is affecting the length of my videos, and that is my AC is broken. So with the combination of lights and the lack of any cool air being circulated in my house, I'm not going to be able to record videos for a particularly long period of time. So videos like Idiot Abroad are probably going to have to take a break until my AC is fixed. Now, the maintenance person, the office or whatever, is having a transition. I guess somebody bought somebody out, and right now there are hardly no maintenance people and nobody on staff that knows how to put in whatever the hell that fluid is you got to put into your AC unit. I forgot the name of it, but you have to have like a professional, a specialist or something like that, and they don't have anybody on staff right now that can do that. So I have to wait until they get that done, and then I can have that fixed, and then you guys can get your continued Carl Pilkington goodness. But this video in particular, this is Bill Burr, Culture of Fake Outrage. I don't know if this is his podcast or an actual stand-up routine, but the reason I clicked on this and wanted to watch is because this goes into a topic that I really want to get into. As a matter of fact, I was even thinking about making a DaVinci Rants video where I was just talking about it. I don't know why I still call it DaVinci Rants. I need to change that because DaVinci Rants makes it sound like I'm like being hostile or combative against something, when usually it's just a debate video. But yeah, it goes into this topic I wanted to get into, which is things like cancel culture and this whole mob mentality thing that we've started to pick up on the internet. And it's just something I want to get into because it goes into a lot of different things, and it goes into what I see as a negative side of society. But let's go ahead and jump into this and see what it has to offer. Where is my mouse? Oh, here it is.
That. Do you care that much about feminist bloggers shutting people down? Or is it that you know your comics instinct knows that that's a difficult topic with potential for outrage?
No, it bugs the shit out of me. And I hate watching comedians have to apologize for jokes. It's the stupidest thing ever. And I don't like how somebody in the crowd gets to define what the comedian meant. And I always say, like, it's just like, look, it's your right to go to a comedy show and take a comedian seriously. But just because you took my joke seriously doesn't mean I now meant it. And you literally watch comics go, no, that's not what I meant by it. And they're arguing with them. It's just like, wait, so you know what I'm thinking and what my intention was more than me? And I also feel like it has nothing really to do with the comedian. It has to do with the cause.
Yeah, that is true. I'm going to be pausing every once in a while to get my topic out because this is 12 minutes long. By the time it's done, I'll probably have forgotten what I was going to even talk about. But somebody... I forgot who exactly, but I was watching a video and they said this line, and it made a lot of sense. They said, it was Breakfast Club. I was watching Breakfast Club, and they made a comment about if, like, when the dog barks at the moon, it's not a big deal, but when the moon barks back, that's when it becomes news. So all these tiny, like the minority of people that are outraged about something, the vocal minority, they're going to be outraged no matter what you do. It doesn't matter what the hell you talk about. There's always going to be somebody that's offended by something. But the second you give it life and start talking back and arguing back with it, that's when you give it validity. It's like North Korea. Like they talk all the crap they want, but they're over there. Nobody takes them serious. The second you start arguing back with them, that is when it starts to pick up news and people start taking it more serious. Like, just I would have to say let it go, but at the same time, I know how upsetting it can be. As a YouTuber, I get a lot of hate, especially as a reaction YouTuber. I get a lot of hate. So it's like you just gotta not let it get to you at all, because there are going to be some people that are going to just flat out be offended by what you have to say. There are going to be some people that are just looking to get a response from you. Just brush it off.
And what they're trying to do is just shine a light on what they want to change, and they're just using the comedian as a lightning rod.
That's true.
To shine it on there. And they don't give a shit what they do to the comedian. So they're actually the asshole. Because if you look at it, the people that they get offended by always seem to have movie careers and TVs, because they're not going to waste their time, for the most part, getting offended by a no-name comic, because they're not going to get any traction.
True.
Okay, but if it's, you know, stand up, whatever, fucking St. Elsewhere's, whatever the name of the show is, so and so, got in trouble at the blah 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 at the comedy club.
Do you ever think it's justified? Do you ever think an attack on what someone said on stage is justified?
Okay, I'm gonna get back into it again, and I'm sorry for the quick pause. Normally, I'm not gonna pause this every 30 seconds. So this is just one thing I wanted to get off again. Recently, Eddie Murphy's come out, or I don't know if he himself came out and said it, but I think it's been confirmed that he's going to start doing tours again, right? He's going to start doing comedy shows. And one thing I was talking about, and I remember saying this to somebody, like, watch what happens. Because if you guys have seen Eddie Murphy's 2 comedy specials, Raw and Delirious, especially the first one, Delirious, he makes a lot of comments towards the gay community. And even though I'm willing to bet that he hasn't done anything similar to that since then, and he's gotten away from it, I'm willing to guarantee you, the second he starts doing his comedy thing again, somebody's going to dig back into the past and grab all the stuff he said and then try to do some type of cancel Eddie Murphy thing. I'm willing to guarantee you that is what will end up happening. And for me, it's like, it's one thing if somebody says some stuff and they're still carrying on with it, and it's like, okay, just don't fuck with them. Just don't mess with them at all. Don't even worry about going to their shows, anything like that. If that's something that outrages you, don't even worry about going to their shows. But the thing I hate about the whole outrage culture thing is, like, even after somebody apologizes, people still want to go down on them. Like, what do you want from them to do? Like, what do you want them to do? Like, you want to literally destroy their career? Is that what you're looking for? Because if somebody apologizes, give it time to see if that apology is sincere. Like, wait and see if they do something that violates that apology. If they do something like that, then fine. Then you can get on them because they were bullshit from the beginning. They obviously didn't mean what they meant when they apologized. But if somebody apologizes and then carries through with that apology and never goes back on it again, never like lets themselves get in that situation, never tries to offend anybody, they completely change their language and all that, what are you still getting outraged about? Why are you still mad at this person? They've apologized. Move the fuck on. like I don't get why people are still trying to one up themselves, like, oh, I'm outraged. Oh yeah, well, I'm extremely outraged. Oh yeah, well, I'm more outraged than that. And they just keep going above and above to try to prove how down with the cause they are. Like, oh, I'm so outraged, I'm still talking about this. Oh yeah, well, I'm so outraged, then I don't even want to look at this person. Well, I'm so outraged that I want to try to create a boycott so nobody, like, calm down. You're not impressing anybody. Just, if the person apologizes, wait and see what he does next or she does next. All right, I'm going to let it continue now.
Do you think it's like it's a sacred space? A comedian can say anything they want with no comeback at all?
Once again, this goes back to just because you're in an oppressed group doesn't mean you can't be an asshole. Just because you're a comic doesn't mean that you're never in the wrong. There's been times that
Essence
I've
of
been on
Thought
stage
prove that.
And I've gotten mad and I just said something hurtful to somebody. Okay? So, like, afterwards, if they wanted to come up to me, I would be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. I'm having a bad day and blah, 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 blah. That's the way it should be handled. This whole fucking thing that you got to have this, why do you got to have like this press conference and it has to be on TV and all, or whatever, in the internet and the blogosphere and all that? Because what it is it's all bullshit because they don't want an apology. They want the light shined on them and be, look at me, look how my feelings got hurt. This is my cause, blah, blah, blah. And they're using the comic. If it was really just, you said this, I felt it was hurtful, it would be a one-on-one situation.
Just stop watching
because no one would even know if it fucking happened.
Yeah.
This is what I love, too, is then it goes on the internet and all these other people get offended about something that was said at a show that they weren't at.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then they feel that they're owed an apology.
Yeah.
And everybody's all like, oh, me. I swear to God, some of these people on the fucking internet, it's so funny the way that they look at people who are on the stage and they talk about our egos and stuff like that. It's the tipping point is happening where the behavior of some of these fucking people in the crowd, their egos and all of their bullshit, they're outshining some of the worst egomaniacs on my side of the microphone.
It's a new brand of heckling.
It's like,
Well, this is it. This is it. You accept there are egomaniacs on your side of the microphone.
Absolutely.
So what my feeling is that maybe the people you're talking about who are making these kind of criticisms, what they feel is that they don't feel powerful. They can't physically come and see you after a show. You're
Why not?
From their point of view, you're a famous guy. You're making a huge amount of money.
I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying
you're
in like
powerful.
a comedy club. In a comedy club.
Sure. But what I mean is, I think we as an audience, I include myself in an audience because I was there last night's show, we as an audience consider you powerful. So if a random blogger they've got no kind of comeback to say this is a problem.
They don't. That's such bullshit.
You don't think?
No.
Well, so you think, do you feel powerful on stage or do you feel more vulnerable than powerful?
What?
I don't think anything.
about to say-
I think I'm going to work and these people paid money and I have to give them their money's worth.
I was about to say, like, what?
And I'm not going to go out there and do some sing-songy knock-knock who's there, because that's insulting to them. And if I go out there in front of 100 people and 99 people enjoyed it and one person didn't, that's really not a big deal. That's sort of, I just hit a home run. And for them to take that one person and act as though they represent the majority, and second of all, that there's some sort of stenographer and remembered exactly what I said, and they're a mind reader and know my intent, and all of this shit, and then you have a kangaroo court, judge, jury, and then I'm a white guy, so immediately I had a privileged upbringing, right? My dad owned a Hollywood studio, and every day I had a gold bar for breakfast.
Well, that's not what privilege means, though, is it?
What do you mean? What is it?
Well, that's not what privilege means, is it? Like, you're the beneficiary of privilege.
I will get
you can have
into
a shit life
privilege
and
after
still be
this, too.
privileged.
There's a lot of people that don't understand exactly what privilege, particularly white privilege, is. And I've explained it a little bit in my other videos, but there are still people that will, like, as soon as they hear the word, they're like, oh, I'm leaving. Unfollow, unlike, unsubscribe. I'm done. I thought you were something, Devon DaVinci, but I was wrong. I'm leaving. Like, first of all, why are you so offended over a discussion of a word? Second of all, the thing that you tend to consider white privilege is not white privilege. Because the same people that get offended are the people that will say, like, white privilege doesn't exist. And it does. But what they fail to understand is exactly what white privilege is. Because there are other privileges as well. There's black privilege. There's Asian privilege. There's Hispanic privilege. Like, there's a lot of privileges. White people have privileges too. It's just that when people hear the word white privilege, they think of a certain thing. Now, it could be a problem with the actual language of the word. The idea of white privilege, like the term white privilege, could be something that doesn't necessarily define what it actually is. It could just be wrong. Kind of like the same thing with Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of people that think when they hear Black Lives Matter, they think, oh, so you think that Black Lives matter more than other people's? No. What I always said is the group should have been called Black Lives Matter too. Like, that would have probably explained it a little bit better as to like what the core of the movement represented. Now, I'm not going to get into the movement itself because I do believe that at some point there were times when the definition got muddied and the meaning behind it, and people that were like trying to get into it started to change it to like for something else. But whatever. I got a lot of stuff I need to talk about. I just got to make sure I remember to talk about it.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like when people refer to like male privilege or white privilege, they don't mean that you drove around in a yacht when you were a kid. They just mean that you didn't have to deal with the systematic issues that other people had to deal with, other non-white people.
That's all really vague horseshit.
Okay.
It is. That's all super vague. Human beings are so much more complex than that. So much more complex than that. And there's plenty of people in oppressed groups that have easier roads and way better lives than people who are so-called in a privileged group. You can't just look at somebody and be like, that's your skin color, you're that. You can do that with white people.
I still think Bill Burr doesn't necessarily...
If you applied that same formula to somebody who wasn't white, it would be considered racist.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's...
I still think he doesn't necessarily understand what white privilege is.
So you're telling me somebody could be getting sexually abused throughout their entire childhood, but because they're white, you know, that they still
It doesn't mean that's okay.
But that they still had a privileged life.
No, but they had privilege within the term, within the confines, within the definition.
Within the anal rape
Within
by
the
a family
definition.
member, they still had this privilege. It's a cartoon, dude. It's a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
Everybody is a fucking cartoon.
He said it. He said
Everybody
it.
gets defined by the cartoon version of
I think
them.
it's the term privilege that's
As a
causing the
white guy,
confusion.
we're on a yacht. We're in the fucking Illuminati.
Sure.
You know, we have like the perfect little breakfast, and we get raised by a nanny, and all of this shit. Like that's the image.
Like a sitcom.
Of like the white. It's not like, you know, despite like in my country, no, that shit I talk about. Like you see these fucking people live in the middle of nowhere where there's like fracking. They've completely destroyed their drinking water, and they're broke ass white people, and nobody cares about them. Okay, so I mean, I think having clean drinking water, once that's out the window, like for me, I would not feel that I had this privilege. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's a divisive word. I understand it. I absolutely understand it. But to just sweepingly generalize all white people like their life is a fairy tale is probably the worst way to try and bring people together, because that puts someone on the defensive. And to me, that's 90% of the internet, where it's like, say I make an ignorant comment about something and you actually know the truth of it. Okay? If you just said, listen, man, I'm actually in that industry, or I'm in that blah, 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 or I grew up like that, and you came at me respectfully, I'm way more going to be open-minded to listen to you. But on the internet, the way it's done is, hey, shit, dick, maybe if you blah, 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 that they come at you like that.
Yeah, but it's similarly, like men's rights activists on the internet are as appalling a group. I think we can agree that people who comment on stuff
they're
online...
cringeworthy.
I think some of them.
Absolutely.
And they always
So
try
among-
to align my shit
Well,
with their
yes.
horse shit.
That's true. Bill Burr gets caught up in a lot of stuff. Men's rights and stuff like that. Now, obviously, I think that there are some things that men should be fighting for. And I think that there's a lot of feminists that would agree. Like, the whole not social security, I'm sure, child support system. Like, that can, like, it's like in when it comes to child, I don't want to say ownership. What's the term I'm looking for? When it comes to becoming, like, labeled as a guardian of a child, women automatically have privilege in that. Like, the judge is going to usually always go for the woman, and the guy usually has to fight a little bit harder in order to get custody. That's the word I was looking for. In order to get custody of a child. When it comes to child support, the guy usually is going to get labeled with it regardless of what he actually did for the kid, or what the mom isn't doing or anything like that. Like, and I'm not saying all moms are doing it. I'm just using examples of, like, bad moms who are able to get away with putting their either baby dads or their husbands or whatever else, not husbands, baby dads on child support. Usually the courts are always in favor of them. And that goes into the idea of privilege. Now, like I said earlier, there is such thing as white privilege, there's such thing as black privilege. That is what you would call a woman privilege. When it comes to the court system, they're more likely to be seen favorably than the guy. That is a privilege or an advantage. I think we should start calling it white advantage, black advantage. That'll probably get people out of the idea of, because when you say privilege, people think of, like Bill Burr said, like you grew up rich, or you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth, you were given the benefit of the doubt on everything, and like that's what people think of when they think of privilege. And that's not what it is, but the word makes people think of that. I'm gonna actually go back a little bit now.
They're
Absolutely
cringeworthy.
terrible.
And they always
So
try
among-
to align my shit
Well,
with their
yes.
horse shit.
They do, and I tell you what, man, there were some people cheering in the audience last night who I thought, I don't know that they're getting a lot of irony from what Bill's saying.
But here's
here.
the thing, though. That's not my responsibility. I'm not a babysitter.
True.
And I'm not toning down what I say. And this is the thing. Anything that I say, including to you, the second I'm done saying it, isn't 100% what I said. Because the second I say it, it goes into your ears, into your head, and is immediately cut with your childhood and all of your life experience. Okay? So it's like drugs that have been stepped on. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. So everybody is trying to make human beings out to be these simple, one-dimensional things. And
That's true.
human beings are so much more complex than the fucking soundbite of 3 seconds into their act, or one joke that they said, and then you're defined. This is who the fuck
that
you
goes
are.
in the
And
labeling.
I've always said
Yeah.
this. Okay, if they could download all of your thoughts,
Tribalism.
would you have a job on Monday? Would you not have to make an apology? I don't think anybody could survive that test. But there's this thing walking around where they're just making generalizations like, these people are privileged, these people are oppressed, these people are ignorant, these people are this, these people that. You can make fun of these people, you can't make fun of these people. You know what I mean? You can't make fun of Caitlyn Jenner because of transgender people, blah, 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 blah. Rednecks, you can just say they fucked their sister in the ass, and you're going to get a fucking standing ovation, blah, 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 blah. So it's okay to make fun of their poverty. And the fact that their luck was that they fucking, were in the middle of nowhere. In my country, just the fact that their state is not near an ocean, which somehow then just makes you the dumbest person on the planet, according to, New York and L.A., where I'm from. It's just like, this is one of the advantages of being a comedian and traveling, is you get to see all the different types of people, all the different layers, all the different levels, all the different stories within all the different colors of people. So all of that stuff that I see on TV is just a bunch of yammering to me by a bunch of people that really need to expand the friends that they have in their lives. And a lot of them, I feel, I don't know, just the way they just go after comedians like that, it's such lazy journalism. When, dude, you have genetically altered food, there's a heroin epidemic, okay, you can just go on and on and on. The oceans are getting fished out. There's major fucking problems. Never talked about. Pharmaceutical companies, getting people hooked on these things that get people on heroin. There should be a class action suit against those guys. All that shit gets fucking oppressed. But you do a Caitlyn Jenner joke in a strip mall, that's going to go on the news. You know why? Because there's no risk. There's no risk. There's no danger to that. There's nothing. If comedians started paying for advertising on fucking network TV, that you'd never see a comic get in another trouble. We fucking unionized, and there was actually money for them to lose by coming after one of us, then you would see a lot of that shit go away.
And where does it come from in you, in your personal life? What is it that's driving you to? Where does that anger come from? Because there's a bunch of comics out there who don't specialize in taking apart these kind of topics.
I think my passion gets confused with anger. I just think that. Like, I don't feel... I definitely have a temper, and I get frustrated with stuff like that. But I don't just walk
DNA starts
around
bubbling up.
seething in rage. Like, I love my life. I love my wife. I love my dog. I'm just like... I honestly just feel like my life is incredible. I do feel like that. But, like, the shit that I get upset about is just stupid shit. Like, I get mad at the fucking, if you want to do this, press 1. I will absolutely lose my shit. But if my house was to burn down and I lost everything, I would probably laugh and be like, well, fuck it, we'll start over again. Like, it's little things that make me flip out. But I understand why people think that I'm this angry person.
Yep. And, yeah, that's something that I'm starting to get into. Well, my hair is kind of fucked up now, but I was actually I could have shown you guys something. I have a piece of hair in my head that, obviously it's in my head. I have a piece of hair in my head that, the tip of it is gray, but the rest of it is black. And I've had issues with gray hair for a minute because I have like specks of gray hair in my head. And I believe it's all stress related. And that kind of was confirmed to me when I discovered this piece of hair, because recently I've started to like mellow out and stop taking stuff as seriously, stop taking stuff to heart, like anything, like whether it's criticism or somebody being negative to me or around me, whether it's like family issues or whether it's like financial issues, whatever it is, I've started to take a step back and just understand, like, just relax. If there's something that I can do about it, fine, do it. And try to do it to your best. But if there's nothing I can do about it, what's the point of being stressed about it? Like, I'm being stressed about something I have no power over. And if I do something about it, do it the best that I can. And if it doesn't work out, I can't have any regrets. Like, what can I say? I should have done more? Like, no, I did the most I could. That's the best I could have done. If anything, don't do it and then underdo it, because then you'll have regrets. Like, oh man, I could have done this, that, and do everything you can, and then that way when you look back on it, it's like, well, fuck it, I tried. So like I was about to say, there's a lot of different topics that were in this that I love to get into. Let's start first with the idea of white privilege, because there's a lot of people in my other videos, and I wish there was a way to link videos. Well, I could leave a thing in it, but I doubt people would click on it, a card. But there's a weird, like, there's a misconnection when it comes to the definition of white privilege, because like I said, people hear the term privilege and automatically assume like, oh, you think that I was like born into a upper class community and I didn't have any troubles in my life and everything was just given to me, and I can't be mad at stuff because my entire life was pretty much handed to me on a silver platter. No, that's not what white privilege means. Anybody that says that's what white privilege means, they're fucking idiots. Make fun of them, laugh at them, and hopefully they'll take that and re-educate themselves. White privilege is just an acknowledgement of statistics, usually based on some type of prejudice. That's it. That's what privilege, or in this particular context, that's what privilege means. So whether it's white, black, Asian, woman, man, old, young, fat, skinny, whatever it is, that's what privilege means. Like I said, it should be called advantage. If I think that it would probably be less confusing. Like, let's say, for example, a black person and a white person are trying out for a sports team. Based on just the skin tone, who do you think is more likely to get picked up on that sports team? Now, I know some people might be like, oh, what sport it is or something like that. Let's say it's an athletic sport, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, not really hockey. I guess you put hockey in there too, I guess. Hockey, tennis, like whatever, like a general sports team. Who do you think is more likely to get picked than the other person? If you said black person, then you're with a majority of people that would likely say the black person would have got picked. That is an advantage or privilege. The black person doesn't have to do anything to prove that they deserve to be on that team, but because they're black, they're automatically seen or judged prematurely, prejudice, that they are more athletically, I don't want to say superior, more athletically well off than the white person is. That's privilege. Now, when it comes to white privilege, people think like, okay, well, let's say two people are driving down the street and there's a cop sitting there and they're looking to pull somebody over, I guess, however cops decide. I know cops don't, well, I ain't gonna say that. I know there are some cops that do it, but majority of cops don't just sit around and are literally looking to pull somebody over. But let's say both of them are violating something. The cop is sitting on the side of the road and there are two cars that come driving by speeding. One of them is driven by a black person. One of them is driven by a white person. The cop has a choice of stopping one. You can't stop two speeding drivers at the same time. You have to pick which one you're going to get. White privilege just means that it's less likely that the cop is going to go after the white person. Now, does that mean that it's not going to happen? No. There have been plenty of examples of white cops pulling over white people while a black person was doing the exact same thing. It happens. But what I'm saying is, a majority of the time, the cop is going to look at both drivers and go for the black guy. And usually that's because black people have an association with criminality or just a particular lifestyle that's like, okay, well, it's more likely that that person has committed a crime, or more likely that person is seen as a criminal or something like that. Like, they're usually like that has something to do with it. I remember, and I don't want to say, like, I want to give this example, and I'm going to give it, but just understand that I don't have the source like with me. I just remember seeing it at some point, and it was such a long time ago I don't remember the link or anything like that. But there was a controversy in New York. Well, actually, I'm going to go with the Florida one because I know the Florida one for like 100% certainty. There was a controversy in Florida where a police chief was telling officers to go out and, stop and pretty much harass black civilians because they were looking to get convictions to start, like, to pretty much add prestige to their precinct or whatever, and they would pull over black people, and then because in their minds it's more likely that the black person actually has a crime, so it would just randomly stop black people, and like if they happen to have something that comes up on their computer, then bam, they got somebody, they can bring them in and have one more conviction on their books or whatever the hell else. But if they didn't have a conviction, they would start planting stuff on them. The person ended up getting fired. I never really followed up. I don't know if they got a job again, or I think he might have got convicted. But that's pretty much what it was. Like, he was telling his officers to pull people over because it was more likely that they would be they were more likely they had a crime on their record. And in New York, that something similar happened. There was a tape where a police chief was telling officers to pull over black people because it's more likely that they're going to have something on their record than other people would. So that would be more so, I would say, a black disadvantage than a white advantage, because I think that if there's a black person compared to other races, it's also likely that they would be more inclined to get pulled over, whether it's a black person and a white person or a black person and an Asian person. I think they're going to go for the black person because we're seen more as criminals, even though it's not justified. Like I said, it's based on prejudice, and when I say prejudice, I just mean judging someone before you know them. Like, that's what I mean when I say prejudice. So it's more based on prejudice. Black people, we kind of have more of a reputation as like being seen as criminals, and part of that is our own doing. Like, part of it is because, you know, back in the day, they associated just about everything negative towards black people so they can try to justify different bullshit laws to keep us in place and this, that, and the other. But as time went on and, like, we started to get into more of this, like, thug and gang mentality and shit like that, it started to give them reason to do stuff without actually having to make stuff up anymore. Because now we are pretty much doing the job of racist institutions out there that want to hinder black progress in some way. Like, they don't even need to make up a reason to stop a black person, because now, well, it's more likely the black person has a record, and you can sit there and say it's racist and prejudice and stuff like that, but the second they pull you over and look at your record and see that you actually have a crime, it doesn't matter anymore. You've pretty much done their job for them. Like I said, there's other privileges and stuff like that, like, or I guess disadvantages. We should start acknowledging the disadvantages more than the advantages. I think that would be the thing that would be best, because like I said, when it comes to a black person getting pulled over more likely than a white person, it doesn't necessarily just fall on white people, because a black person is more likely to get pulled over than an Asian person. A black person is more likely to get pulled over by a Hispanic person. Probably not nearly as much, or that margin of difference isn't nearly as much, but I still think that it's still there. So it's more so a black disadvantage. Now, there are white disadvantages out there too. Like I've said before, if a white person is walking down the street in the hood, it's more likely they'll be seen as a target of theft or mugging or something like that than a black person walking down the street in the hood. That's a disadvantage for white people. Like, it just is. When it comes to white people, like, in black communities, white people are seen as less intimidating. And, like, I know that. I know it sounds fucked up, me saying this, and I'm only saying this because it's the truth. So if you get offended by it, just know reality doesn't give a damn about how you feel. White people, when it comes to, like, if you ask a black person if they were to get into a fight with a black dude or a white dude, who are they more likely to be intimidated by? They're going to say the black guy. White people are not usually seen as intimidating unless they've shown you a reason why they should be intimidated. Like, if you've seen this white person actually go and whoop ass, then you'll be intimidated by them. But if you've never seen anything about them, and it's the first time seeing them, and they don't automatically come off as intimidating, like real big, stocky or something like that, then you're not going to be intimidated by them. Or usually you're not going to be intimidated by them. Black people are seen more likely as tougher. Like, even like in the sense that, like, just other stuff, not even related to fighting, but other stuff, like when it comes to athletics or whatever. Like, if a black person, like, let's say, gets into a foot race with a white person and loses, other black people around him are probably going to make fun of the black person. Like, oh, how'd you let blah, blah beat you? That's just what happens. And is it prejudice? Yes. Because you don't know anything about that white person. You have no idea what their training or whatever they did was. So that's just how it is. And like I said, when it comes to black people, they have disadvantages like that too. When it comes to finance and stuff like that, a white person might look more likely like, oh wow, really, you're a billionaire? Oh, wow, I didn't expect that. Like if a person comes into a bank dressed like some random dude off the street, and they want to make a bank account, and you're like, all right, so how much you want to put down? And they pull out like $50,000. You're probably going to assume like, oh man, this person sells drugs or something. There's no way this person coming in dressed and looking like this is putting down this much money, and he got it legitimately. Now you never know. He could be a rapper. He could be an athlete. He could be a businessman. He could be anything. You don't know, but because of like your predetermined idea of what a person that looks like that should be like, or your prejudice, you're automatically assuming that, okay, something's wrong here. That's a black disadvantage. Now, like I said, I think that we should get rid of the term privilege because it muddies stuff up. I think that we should look more at our disadvantages than our advantages, or we should look more at our disadvantages than calling out other people's advantages. Like, oh, that's white privilege. No, that could just be black disadvantage. White people can do it, but there's also other races that can also like be more inclined to be accepted doing something than a black person. It's not just white people, it's other people as well. Now there are some specific stuff that might be inclusive to specific races. Like I said, when it comes to like walking down the street in the hood, you're more likely to be seen as less intimidating and therefore more of a easy target if you're not black. That tends to be more black exclusive. I mean, Hispanics would probably get away with it too, but if you're like white or Asian or anything like that, you're probably seen more as like an easy target. That's just how it is. Sometimes those things come down to like what we've done ourselves, and I'm not saying we as like you specifically, but your race has done throughout history. Black people were seen more as thugs because since the civil rights movement, we've started to embrace more of a thug mindset, or not mindset, a thug culture, gang culture, things like that. Like stuff that would normally seen as criminal are now considered cool, like selling drugs and having guns on you and things like that. Like it just doesn't, like, if a bunch of goddamn club swinging singers decided to start sagging their pants and stuff like that back when it was the 1950s and stuff, sagging your pants wouldn't be seen as like what it is now. Like now it's associated with thug lifestyles because that's the type of people that were doing that thing did. If black people had never embraced the criminal side of like hip hop and things like that, then it wouldn't have been seen as like all the stuff that are normally seen as like degenerate, like sagging your pants and wearing your hat backward and stuff like that. It wouldn't have been seen as that. It would just been a cultural thing. Nobody says anything about a person in the 80s with the hairband hairstyle and the weird colors and all that. Like, no, that's not seen as anything weird because it wasn't associated with that type of lifestyle. Now, I think that we as black people need to stop embracing that. I'm not saying get rid of hip hop because hip hop is amazing. Like hip hop is not centered around criminality and stuff. Rapping and stuff isn't centered around criminality. It's what people who do rap about. And it's one thing to talk about your community, where you came from, things like that. That is 100% okay. It's when you glorify it. Like there have been like back when rap first started, rappers were talking about their communities and where they came from and things like that, but it was never considered a negative thing. It's like you just went through hardships and you fought and you overcame all odds and you eventually got to where you needed to get to. But at some point, hip hop started to embrace the negative things, and they started to talk about how like it was cool to sell drugs and how it's cool to like be in gangs and shoot people and have guns and things like that. And at some point, like the kids and stuff started to embrace that, and it started to become more accepted and things like that. Now it seems like we're starting to get to a point where it's starting to change a little bit, and I think that's more so because most, or I'm gonna say most, but black kids have grown up in a society where we have seen the consequences of that lifestyle, and now it's not really taken as seriously. Like there was a situation right now with Tekashi, and I have people ask like, well, do you think he'll be able to have a music career after this? A lot of people say yeah, because that old lifestyle where he was trolling isn't seen as like, it's not as, it doesn't have as much of a stronghold on black community as it used to. That doesn't mean it's not there, but it doesn't have as much of a stronghold. Nowadays we're embracing more of differences. Like, it's okay to be black and not want to be a part of that lifestyle. Whereas back in the day, it's like if you weren't like wearing baggy clothes and like dressing up the part and acting the part and stuff like that, people would make fun of you. People would clown you. Like, I grew up like one of the things, like when I started doing the reactions to music videos on this channel, I actually told you guys that the reason I was doing it is because I was trying to broaden my musical palette. Like, I wanted to learn more about musicians outside of rap and R&B and hip hop, because growing up, that's all I really listened to. And I was never like too into it, but I knew like, well, this is what people like, what we listen to. If I'm caught listening to like Queen or something else, like back then, I probably got made fun of. I probably would have. And I understand like, all right, well, you have to understand that you don't live for other people, live for yourself. And I know that now. Like, I learned that now, but as a kid growing up in school and things like that, and you have peer pressure and everything else you're dealing with, sometimes that can be a hell of an influencer. So you might tend to go with it. But yeah, at some point I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to listen to what I want to listen to and do what I want to do. And it wasn't just me, it's a lot of people out there that had the same exact idea. Like, there's people wonder like, why are so many black people listening to Queen and like doing reactions to rock music and stuff like that now? That's because nowadays it's more accepted. Back in the day, black people didn't listen to that, because if you did, you probably got clowned. So now we have the freedom to finally go out and start doing that. Maybe in 20 years we'll start to see more black rock bands and black country music and like other genres, because we're finally starting to embrace that we don't have to portray a certain image. We can go out and it's okay now. Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff I want to talk about, and honestly I might do that. I said I can't do long videos because it's hot as hell, and it is right now, but sometimes like this is an interesting thing to talk about. I want to get this off my chest. Somebody actually asked me to do a podcast. I do already do a podcast in a way. I have a couple episodes up on this channel already, and I have a couple episodes on DT Productions, my old channel, with King Rutherford. And it's been a minute since I've done one. But every once in a while, if King Rutherford comes over and we have something to talk about, sometime we're like, hey, turn on the microphone, we can go ahead and do a podcast real quick. And he actually has told me that he wants to do this, so the next time he comes over, it's possible we might try to get an episode out. We got to figure out what to talk about exactly. If you guys have any topics that y'all want to hear about, y'all can leave it in the comment section on this video. But yeah, I know this is a very long video, but this is just some stuff that I wanted to talk about. I want to try to get more into outrage culture, but this video's already gone on long enough. Like I said, I wanted to talk about it so bad that I was thinking about making a video specifically for outrage culture, like a DaVinci rants video or something, because it's gotten, I feel like it's starting to get out of hand with cancel culture and outrage culture. And before anybody says there's no such thing as cancel culture, that's bullshit. I don't think you understand exactly what people mean when they say cancel culture, because cancel culture is like, it's not about holding people responsible for the things they do. Like, to hold someone responsible is to make them pretty much pay the consequences for what they did. If somebody does something wrong, they should apologize, and depending on how bad it is, like, you can stop buying their stuff or whatever else. But if it's just like they said something that's offensive, if they apologize and show that they are sincere about it, that should be it. Wash your hands with it, move on. Why are you still trying to boycott the person and like make sure nobody ever listens to them again? That makes no sense. Like, that's not holding someone responsible. That's just using social media in a way to like kind of cyberbully somebody. Like, oh, well, you're not doing what I want you to do. You don't believe what I want you to do. Therefore, I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that not only do I not listen to your stuff, but I'm gonna go around and be like an evangelical and just preach that nobody should listen to you, and I'm gonna boycott you, and I'm gonna try to create boycotts and this, that, and that. Like, why? The person apologized. Move the fuck on. Just like Bill Burr said, at this point, it's no longer about whether or not you like are actually offended by the person. You're just trying to use them as an example to portray your own little platform you're arguing for. Like, and not everybody has to agree with what you think. Like, there have been people that have called me, well, I can't say called me, but there are people that, like, because of the way I think, they start to think, oh, he's a social justice warrior, or he's a liberal, or he's a leftist, or something like that. And yeah, I am on the left. I will admit that. But but the thing is, I have policies that I believe that I'm right on. And there are a lot of things I'm left on, but there are a lot of things I'm right on as well. The problem is, people want to simplify everything, like Bill Burr said, and want to just throw you under a category. Oh, you're a social justice warrior. Oh, you're a conservative. Oh, you're a liberal. Oh, like, they only hear one topic and just throw it there. And that's one of the things, like when I mentioned Essence of Thought, because if you don't know who Essence of Thought is a transgender YouTuber that is, I would say, known in the intellectual community, even though I doubt you could call them intellectual now. And there was an issue with rationality rules, where he made a video about transgender in sports. And a lot of topics I've actually agreed on him with. I've already stated my case for transgenders in sports. But the thing is, because he had an argument that in a lot of ways was based on fact. Now, the first video he did about the topic, he used a lot of things in it that weren't based on facts. Like, he had like opinion videos like Joe Rogan and stuff like that in it, which I'm not sure why he did that. That's usually something that he doesn't do. But he apologized for it, and he made a new video where he was addressing it seriously and didn't have any of that stuff in it. But because he still is against, because he didn't completely change his opinion, and he's not against the idea that, or because he's not in favor of transgender just openly being accepted in every single sport category, Essence of Thought is still against him. And not only against him, but is using bullshit arguments to fit her own narrative. Like, oh, well, he's a violent homophobe and a transphobe, and he's an enemy of trans people everywhere. No, he's not. He has a difference of opinion in one category. In every other issue when it comes to transgender rights, he's in favor of. But because this one thing that he's against, you have a problem with him completely, and you want to throw him under the transphobe argument. And then it got even worse, where he has a friend that's a YouTuber. Her name is Rachel Oates, and Essence of Thought started like harassing her on the internet, telling her that she needs to disown rationality rules, or else like she's going to keep calling her like a transphobe and this, that, and the other, and pretty much having her and her supporters go around calling like harassing her. And it got to the point where she started like uploading videos where she was like self-harm and stuff like that. Like, she started to get depressed, and like Essence of Thought started to use like, oh, well, what happens when white women's tears are used as a crutch and all this other bullshit. Like, it got to the point where like it started to expose Essence of Thought's arguments were obviously just using other people to portray her own ideas. And just because you're part of a minority group doesn't mean that you can't be an asshole. Like, there are people that have issues with Caitlyn Jenner, or I mean, there are people who had issues with Bruce Jenner, but when Bruce Jenner transitioned to Caitlyn Jenner, people act like your issues with Caitlyn was supposed to just be wiped out because, oh, Caitlyn Jenner's transsexual now, so we should just automatically, well, transgender. Why did I say transsexual? Transgender. So we're supposed to automatically just wipe out everything that's with that, like all the problems we have with Bruce, and just like wipe them out. No. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Period. It has nothing to do with being a transphobe or anything like that. If I voice my opinion about a person that does something that I think is asshole-ish, and just because they're associated with a certain group, if my argument has nothing to do with that group, then God damn it, you're just an asshole. It's not about being a transphobe, and people using that, like weaponizing it, try to like be able to spout their bullshit, but hide under the umbrella of, oh, but if you argue against me, then you're arguing against who I am, not actually like the person I am, but the actual physical person of who I. No, you're an asshole. Period. I've talked about this long enough. I know there's probably gonna be some people in the comments that might not really understand what I'm saying right now. I am perfectly fine with elaborating. Maybe I'll do a video where I address this specifically. Maybe I'll do a podcast where I address this specifically. I would like the ability to like talk to people, but I'm not about to sit here and do all that. Not right now, anyway. When this channel gets a little bit bigger, maybe I'll start doing Q&As with live people, but as of right now, that's not going to happen. But I will be in the comment section checking it out, and if you have any comments that you want to talk about, I'll be free. I will sit and talk with you. It's just if you start to get into arguments that are based on nothing, or start to use straw men against me and start using arguments, if you start arguing my positions using other people's arguments that I did not say or anything like that, then I will just leave. I won't care, because that's happened before. Like, I have an issue with a certain thing, but because this person has an issue with other people that share that issue or that position I have, but they also are all like really far to the other side. So it's like, not only do they have an issue with that, they have an issue with everything in this category. But you want to use me as a straw man to argue against these people. Don't do it. If you have an argument with something, argue with something I actually said. Don't try to put positions in my mouth and think, oh, well, you support this, and this, when I don't. But with that being said, this video is long enough. It's probably, I'm not even sure how long it is. I have to check. But anyway, that's been this video. I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Until then, I'm Devon DaVinci. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. You just been a little bit more enlightened. And I'm giving you the deuces. Peace.